Chapter 12, The President's Order. The suffocating, paranoid tension had settled over the sprawling metropolis of Manila, thick enough to choke on. Inside the fortified basement of the Novice Club, the air smelled heavily of bleach and ozone. Mateo Reyes stood over a stainless steel industrial table, his hands encased in black latex gloves. Spread out before him were stacks of millions of pesos, blood-spattered currency salvaged from the hostile takeover of the Red Dragon Triad. Mateo grabbed a thick wad of extremely dense, bloody 1,000-peso bills and fed them into a heavy-duty currency counting machine. The machine whirred, spitting out the clean stacks on the other side. June sat on a metal stool adjacent to the table, aggressively cleaning a dismantled assault rifle. "We are moving too recklessly," June said quietly, dropping a firing pin into a rag. "We've spent 14 months since the hotel raid bleeding out every rival gang in the city, but dumping the Davo bosses in Tall Lake this week was too loud. The streets are talking, Teo. The Ascals can't even go back to Tonda without feeling eyes on the back of their necks." Mateo fed another stack of blood-stained cash into the counter, his jaw tight. He knew June was right. 2 years ago, under Marco's original rules of camouflage, they would have locked down operations and let the heat die. But ever since the mansion in Tagaytay was finished, Marco's unbroken winning streak had warped his judgment. He practically paraded his untouchable status. Suddenly, the heavy bass radiating from the nightclub floor above cut out. Mateo immediately stopped the counting machine. June instantly slammed the bolt of his rifle back into place, chambering around. The basement plummeted into dead silence, save for the hum of the air conditioning. A moment later, the flat-screen television mounted on the concrete wall usually displaying live security feeds from the club's VIP rooms forcefully glitched. The feed cut abruptly to a national broadcast. Mateo grabbed a remote and unmuted the volume. On the screen, the President of the Philippines was standing behind a heavy mahogany podium at Malacanang Palace. The presidential seal gleamed under the harsh press lights. The president, a notoriously hardline populist with a history of iron-fisted governance, stared directly into the cameras with zero diplomatic warmth. "For too long, the cartels and the syndicates have treated the streets of our capital like their own personal slaughterhouses," the president's deep, echoing voice filled Mateo's quiet kitchen. "They traffic their poison. They burn down businesses. They corrupt our officials. They act as if they are untouchable." The camera potted tightly on the president's hardened face. "As of midnight tonight, the rules of engagement are officially changed," the president declared, his tone devoid of any political rhetoric. It was a military order. "I am authorizing the immediate deployment of a specialized National Bureau of Investigation Anti-Narcotics Task Force. Any individual found operating within upper-level narcotic syndicates, regardless of their wealth or political connections, will be given one singular warning: surrender immediately to authorities." The president leaned closer to the microphones. "If you do not surrender, my orders to law enforcement are absolute. You are an enemy of the Republic. You will be categorized as armed and dangerous, and you will be shot dead on sight. There will be no negotiations. There will be no leniency. May God have mercy on your souls, because the government will not." Mateo turned the television off. The screen faded to black, leaving him in total silence. Shot dead on sight. This wasn't a PR stunt. It was a licensed extermination. Mateo pulled out his encrypted burner phone and dialed Marco's private number. Marco answered on the second ring. The aggressive thumping of the club's sound system casually filtered through the receiver. "Teo. Tell me you're watching the news. The president is putting on quite the theatrical performance." "It's not a performance, Marco," Mateo said, peeling off his blood-stained gloves, his voice hard. "He's declaring martial law against the cartels without calling it martial law. They are going to start kicking down doors tonight." "Let them kick down the doors of the petty street dealers," Marco replied smoothly, unbothered. "We operate in the stratosphere, Teo. Do you think Senator Velasco is going to let the NBI raid our properties when we have 400 hours of high-definition video of him doing cocaine with escorts? Besides, I just deposited 50 million pesos into an offshore account for the Metro Manila Chief of Police. The police work for me, not the president. You're not calculating the panic variable, Mateo pushed back, his grip tightening on the phone. When corrupt politicians get genuinely terrified, they burn their liabilities to survive. If Velasco thinks the president is going to put a bullet in his head for protecting us, he will hand us over in a heartbeat to save himself. The systemic immunity is gone. We need to lock down the cash, pull the ascals off the streets, and go dark. Marco sighed, the sound laced with patronizing arrogance. You are letting the paranoia of the slums dictate your business acumen, Mateo. We don't hide anymore. We are too economically valuable to the city to be purged. Stay in the basement and count the money. I'm going back to my guests. Click. Marco hung up. Mateo stared at the dead phone in his hand. The sheer hubris was going to get them both killed. Marco thought he could buy the storm. But Mateo knew that a storm didn't take bribes. It just destroyed everything in its path. Across the sprawling city, inside the heavily fortified headquarters of the National Bureau of Investigation in Quezon City, Special Agent Daniel Navarro stood in front of an illuminated glass murder board. The bullpen around him was a chaotic hive of activity. Dozens of highly trained tactical agents were rapidly logging weapons, checking body armor, and syncing encrypted radios. The president's speech had just dropped the leash, and the hounds were officially off the chain. Daniel Navarro didn't look like a typical government bureaucrat. He was in his mid-40s, possessing the rugged, deeply scarred face of a man who had survived 3 separate tours dismantling extremist cells in the southern jungles of Mindanao before rotating into the NBI. He wore a plain black tactical shirt, his sleeves rolled up to reveal thick forearms corded with faded shrapnel scars. His eyes were sharp and relentlessly focused. He had lost too many good men to the systemic corruption of Manila. He didn't care about the politics, the money, or the press conferences. He only cared about the hunt. Agent Reyes, a young, sharp-eyed data analyst, walked up beside Navarro, handing him a fresh manila folder. The tactical rollout is prepped, sir, the analyst said respectfully. The police are targeting the lower-level meth labs in Caloocan and Tonda as a show of force for the media. What's our first target? Navarro took a sip from his black coffee, his eyes never leaving the glass board. Pinned to the board were high-resolution crime scene photos. The burned-out wreckage of the Red Dragon Triad's karaoke bar. The blood-soaked marble hallway of the Vanguard Hotel where General Alves was executed. And a heavily blown-up image of a shipping container seized at the port. Let the local police chase the street dealers, Navarro said, his voice a low, gravelly baritone. We aren't here to trim the weeds. We are here to chop off the head of the snake. Navarro pointed to the photo of the shipping container. Look at this. 3 weeks ago, Marco Dizon used his political connections to intercept and incinerate 20 million pesos worth of triad contraband at the port. He thought it was a clean hit. But Dizon is arrogant. He didn't realize customs documented the serial numbers on the trucking manifest before the incinerator was fired. Navarro picked up a red dry erase marker and drew a thick, aggressive line from the customs manifest directly to a photo of a commercial laundry truck recently hijacked on EDSA. We pulled the wreckage of this laundry truck out of a junkyard in Navotas, Navarro explained. Forensics found a single, half-burned bundle of cash hidden under the melted floorboards. The serial numbers on the cash wrapper matched one of Marco Dizon's dummy shell corporations based in Makati. It explicitly links high society Dizon to the violent street-level hijacking of Triad money. Navarro circled 2 overlapping photos on the board. One was a Society magazine clipping of Marco Dizon smiling at a VIP gala. The other was a grainy, redacted police file photo of a young, hardened enforcer from Tonda. Mateo Reyes. Dizon and Reyes, Navarro said softly. Sir, the analyst asked, frowning slightly at the board. Marco Dizon is a high-society nightlife entrepreneur. He runs legitimate clubs in Bonifacio Global City. And Mateo Reyes has barely any criminal record outside of juvenile assault charges from 8 years ago. The current working theory is that General Alves was killed by the triads. Navarro shook his head, tapping the marker against the glass. The triads operate large-scale chaos, but the hotel hit was a surgical breach. Fast forward 3 weeks, the triads' most profitable front is systematically burned to the ground. Then, Hector Cruz comes up from Davao, and drops off the map, Navarro countered, his tactical mind cutting straight through the noise. This wasn't cartel infighting. This was a hostile corporate takeover orchestrated by someone with financial backing and effective street muscle. Dizon laundering the cash, Reyes pulling the trigger. The analyst stared at the board, the hard evidence of the money band matching the burned truck slowly clicking into place. But Marco Dizon is deeply connected to Senator Velasco. If we look at him without concrete hard evidence, the political blowback will be immediate. The president just gave us a blank check, kid, Navarro said, tossing the red marker onto a nearby desk. He reached over to his tactical vest, pulling out a heavy, standard-issue Glock 19 and smoothly racking the slide. The metallic clack echoed loudly over the din of the busy bullpen. Senator Velasco can't protect them anymore. The president bypassed the corrupt local police precincts and brought in military oversight to monitor the political channels. Velasco knows he's being watched. He's formally abandoning Mateo to save his own skin, Navarro stated, sliding the pistol into his thigh holster. Dizon thinks his money makes him invisible. We are going to show him exactly how fragile his little kingdom really is. Navarro grabbed his tactical radio off the charging station and keyed the mic. Bravo team, this is Special Agent Navarro. Mount up. The radio crackled back instantly. Copy that, boss. What's the destination? Navarro looked back at the board one last time, his eyes locking onto the photo of Marco's flagship BGC nightclub, the Novice. We are going to hit their money, Navarro commanded. We are raiding the Novice Club. Full tactical insertion. Nobody gets in, nobody gets out. It's time to see how the apex predators react when they are finally trapped in a cage.